Welcome to another episode of Optometry Profits Revealed. I'm your host, Peter Precht. Today I am with Ryan Markey. He's one of the few that can literally say, from the moment he was born, he was in eye care. Without any further ado, Ryan, nice to have you.
Hey, it's fun to be here, Peter. We've known each other for a while now, and you've been asking me to jump on here and chat with you, and you wore me down. You got me, man. You got me.
We're going to talk about this journey. Your grandfather, your father, yourself, and I'm going to let you kind of tell it at whatever level you want. But I definitely want to focus on, what technologies did you see come in that left a mark that we talked about? We talked about a Coburn product. We'll get into that in a few minutes. But, things that you saw with Lee Optical, with Royal, and how they impacted the society, and then also, some of the things that have been a letdown, and then where we are currently. But talk about that. Talk about your grandfather's journey.
Well, his journey was one of those that, and some of these are just his stories. So I wasn't there to be able to validate the authenticity, although I did ask his family. He when he was in college, in order to make some extra cash, he used to go pick up the old bottles from the fraternity houses, make bathtub gin, and then resell them to the fraternity houses. So he started really young being an entrepreneur. He also at one point became a sharecropper for Birdseye and grew peas when they were trying to learn how to fast freeze peas. So he did that. He was a dressmaker for a while, and when he moved down to Houston from the New England area, he was a dressmaker. He ran a dress factory, and he got a phone call from a friend who said, "Come up here. We want to teach you the optical business. You can make some really good money, and we could use somebody in our manufacturing." So that was his beginning, from dressmaking to glasses. But during World War II, he got called to the front lines, and he made glasses on the front line for the guys fighting in World War II. So, and I pulled this for our conversation, and now, if you saw my desk, I'm not going to turn the camera, but if you saw my desk, you would laugh at me. But I have his original document that shows that he was in the military in World War II.
Was he Army?
Army, yeah. He was in the back of a personnel carrier. Now, the reason that this one becomes a real big turning point is he had a lab with a couple of guys in Dallas, and he said to himself, if Henry Ford can do assembly line manufacturing, so can I. This comes from a guy who would get 6 new nurses, male nurses, and he had to teach them how to use a hand pan, how to get the curve, how to get, how to rock cylinder, how to, take the pattern and place it properly, use the glass cutters to cut them and the pliers to pop them off and to put the groove in. They only had them for one enlistment, right? So,
right.
Every 6 weeks, 6+ weeks, he's having to retrain a whole new group of guys. So what he did is he started training them on each section of it, right? And so he ended up getting glasses done quicker, and he says, I'm going to take this with me when I go back to Texas. So when he goes back to Texas, he goes and finds a machinist to help him make a generator, the first generator. And he worked with him, and this guy, I've read the guy's book. He doesn't give my grandfather any credit for it, but that's fine. Grandpa wasn't big on credit. But he builds 2 of these generators. One Grandpa puts into production, and the other one this guy goes out and sells to other labs around the country. But then, you got to polish. So they built cylinder machines. And so the first cylinder machines they built together. And then this guy went and started his own equipment company and did that. And my grandfather always had a close relationship testing out equipment. He was real big on getting new stuff and testing it out. So I guess that is why when there's new technology, I embrace it. I look to see where you can improve it. And,
Right.
and that's kind of a cultural mindset for my family. My dad did exactly the same thing when my grandfather sold that lab, or sold his piece of that lab to his partners. And he went to work for a company called Lee Optical, and the lab was Daltex. Lee Optical had 240 locations in its heyday, and probably one of the largest wholesale labs in the country. They actually, when it comes to marketing, they're very innovative. They were the first laboratory to have a full color catalog. So,
Oh, how cool.
Yeah, that was really kind of cool. So you'd see the frames and stuff. He had his own frame company with a gentleman, and they, sold their frames. And I don't know if you know this. Most opticians don't know this, but originally there were 5 patterns. That was it. When they would make a frame, they would take one of those 5 patterns and they would modify the look of the frame around those 5 patterns. And they were metal patterns. But anyway, Go ahead. Sorry. I could keep going for. I mean, I'm 60 something years old. I've been doing this all my life. I could go for hours, but I know you've only got an hour. So.
The question I had, you hit on one part of it. Few styles, oodles of sizes, which had great implications to expand the industry into new markets quickly. Mm-hmm. But you talked about Lee Optical having 240 locations. Is this a lab connected to a dispensary?
So this was a large wholesale lab, multiple floors. I think it was a 3-story, but by the time I showed up, it was in a 3 or 4-story building. They had conveyor belts. They were one of the first labs to have a conveyor system.
Wow.
Yeah, when I was 4, I think, they sent me, one of the guys sent me up the conveyor to crawl up the conveyor and shag the trays and lenses that had fallen. And then my dad walked in the room and almost had a heart attack. And that was a facial expression, made me get down. And needless to say, the employees who were laughing at me, which I didn't know, I was 4 years old. They got in a little trouble, I think. But yeah.
But their job got done.
Well, yeah.
You cleaned up all that debris that was around the.
But it was a wholesale. It was a independent wholesale lab that was called Daltex, and then Lee Optical was the retail division. So there were actually 2 companies with common ownership.
Where are those 240 locations? How far away?
They're closed. They're out of business. This is a long time ago.
No, I mean like.
Oh, where were they?
Geographically.
Multiple states, all over the country.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, my dad, when my grandfather sold out his piece or retired and sold to his partner, when my grandfather left, my dad stayed for a little while and he ran the stores in California. We moved to California for six months. And my dad's like, no, I don't want to, I don't like the direction the company's going in. I'm going to start my own. So my dad moved back to Dallas. We hadn't sold our house yet, thank goodness. For me as a kid, going back home was nice.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah. But he started a sunglass shop that did prescriptions. It was called Sunglass World. And it was kind of cool, and that was his thing, and him and my mom ran it together. But my grandfather's partner, his nephew of my grandfather's partner, and my dad and another guy got together and said, you know what, let's recreate the chain. Let's not do wholesale work. Let's do all our own lab work. One guy already had 5 or 6 stores. Dad and the other partner opens a few stores, and they just started opening stores and creating Royal, which When we sold to U.S. Vision, which is now Refrac, whatever. When we sold to them, we had 670 locations in 42 states and 2 laboratories. So that was
in the
80s, 70s and 80s, yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to remember when in the 70s because, that's my elementary school years.
Right. Well,
I was in 2nd grade in 1970.
So did Royal Optical have a singles? Well, you had two central labs, I guess.
Well, we started out with 1 central lab in Dallas.
Okay.
When we got to a certain size, we found that it wasn't impossible, but it was becoming very cumbersome. We had opened up inside the penny stores in California and a couple of other places because we had previously tried to stay away from licensed states.
Right.
But we opened a bunch of stores in California and a few other places. So we opened a lab in Denver. And the lab in Denver did close to 1,000 jobs a day.
Wow.
The lab in Dallas was anywhere from 2,000 to, I think at our peak, we were over 4,000 jobs a day. And that's the lab I grew up in.
Well, and again,
and the stores.
Huge lab in Dallas. Let's go back a little bit to your grandfather and connect Bill Benedict into this story a little bit.
Bill is Uncle Bill to me because he's always been family. His family is my family. Not biologically, but I mean, we're really close, and I would do anything for them, and I know if I picked up the phone, vice versa. I mean, we're very close. The way the story goes for my grandfather is that there's this guy who's knocking on the door, trying to get in to get a job, and they, go away, we're good. And my grandfather and a couple of his buddies are walking out of the lab to go to lunch, and Bill's right there. Knock, knock, knock. And Bill's like, I really want a job. I hear this is where I can learn the business. I really want to. My grandfather reaches in the door, grabs a broom, hands it to Bill, and says, see this area right here? We're going to go eat. When we come back, this has got to be spotless clean. And if it is, I'll give you a job. Thinking that, the kid will give up. It's a menial job. He's not going to do the menial task, right? My grandfather comes back. It's spotless. I mean, in the corners, it's spotless. Between the cracks, it's spotless. It is just, short of hosing it down with a pressure washer, it was beautiful. And my grandfather basically in his mind is like, this guy will do any task, and he will do an awesome job. This is the kind of person I want. Come on in, you got a job. And my grandfather, even according to Bill, helped him, trained him on the optical business. But my grandfather got the opportunity while he was there to sell out and go to Daltex and become a partner in Daltex. So he left, and Bill had his life. And there's a book that you can buy that will tell you all about Bill's life.
Oh, yeah. Well,
and it's actually good. It's actually really entertaining, by the way. Not that I'm peddling his book. It's just a good book.
In my initial season, I did interview Bob Hillman, who was part of that at the lab level, helping them plug in what they were doing, and then connecting his versions of it in New Jersey. Mm-hmm. And then what he did in New Jersey, this guy outside taking a bunch of pictures, goes back to Cincinnati with Dean Butler. Late 70s, he launches lens crafters.
Well, and so Dean and my dad were friends, and it was funny. Dean was out of town, and he was coming back in town in between one of his projects, and my dad had an appointment he had to make, and so my dad was trying to peddle me off on Dean, and Dean's like, "No, it's okay. I can find something to do. I don't need your kid to show me around."
keep you over there.
Yeah.
You-
Dean's a good guy,
Roy.
but he's another good guy. I mean, that's the other thing. I started, and I'm going to jump ahead pretty far real quick, just to make a point. I started a laboratory later in my life, 10 years ago, 11 years ago. And I started that lab, and I was coming up with a name, and I called it My Friend's Lab. And the reason that I did is because in this time period we're talking about, everybody was friends. You could be competitors. The guys who owned Texas State Optical, okay, I ran that for a while too, by the way. But the guys who owned Texas State Optical at the time had a small piece of Caesar's Palace. Okay. And they would invite their competitors and friends to come hang out and party, and everybody got along. It's not like it is now, where it's so divisive and people are so trying to, let me get your business. No, let me earn business from the doctors that are out there. There's plenty of new ones. Let me find people who like what I do. That was the mentality when I was a kid, not the mentality of there's X number of people. This is the percentage we have to get. We must go. So it's very different now. So I bring up My Friend's Lab only because I came up with it because that's what it was when I was a kid. Everybody was friends. I mean, there was a wholesale lab in Dallas that caught fire. And my dad started to do all their lab work for a while. And I'm like, I'm in my teens, so I'm working a little bit in finance and also in the lab just to get to know the whole business. And I'm like, Dad, are we going to send this guy a bill? He goes, for what? I said, for all this lab work. And he goes, no. If this had happened to us, he would take care of us. I'm like, we're doing all this for free? No, and I'm sure. I'm sure it wasn't. I'm sure it wasn't free. No. But the way that it was done, it was not it was a, hey, we need this. Anytime we'd ask for anything from him after he reopened, no problem, you got it. I mean, that was the attitude. Matter of fact, I was going through family photos and I saw photos of a bunch of my dad's competition on a cruise together. And I'm like, Dad, these were your competition. And he goes, yeah, there's your grandfather. But your mom and I couldn't go. But yeah, they all used to vacation together. You don't see that anymore.
That's like, no, you don't. But there's a paying it forward philosophy in the moment. And that, it is a different mindset.
Yeah, but I don't see that anymore.
Well,
do you?
I not personally.
Yeah.
I have heard pretty tremendous stories about a few people in mega places, certainly Luxottica, where they stuck to their convictions, even though they were assimilated. They're simulating.
Well, I was going to say, if you go to Hoya right now, a lot of the ex Luxottica employees are running Hoya.
Right. Well, it's not. It can't be easy.
What do you mean?
To have massive sized goals that they did. I remember learning in my first 5 years in the industry that the company that owns Avant-Garde wants to own everything. And it wasn't even 1990. So they weren't shy about it. They had a very flamboyant calendar at that time. Everybody wanted one. They weren't shy about wanting to own the luxury part. But it is ironic that the luxury part is separated most succinctly, in terms of the frame line business right now.
Well, one of the things I learned when I had my own stores, I had 5 couture stores. One of the things that I learned was the consumer perception of luxury and the actual luxury products are two very diverse things. There are brands out there that pay a lot of money for the brand name, and they don't spend much of anything on the frame. The quality of the frame is not necessarily there. Then there's companies that will give you a super fine frame. Great. I mean, it's made like jewelry, like it used to be. I mean that's another quick thing. Right. Let me have an ADD moment, if you don't mind. Here's my ADD moment. If you ever go into a jeweler and you're an optician, you'll see that they use very much the same tools. And the reason they use the same tools is jewelers were the ones who made glasses. If you look at the original material, it was gold, it was silver, it was, plastics were made out of a material that when shaved was highly flammable. My grandfather, I'll tell you about that. That's another story. Anyway, I don't want to do an ADD on an ADD moment. Anyway, but my point is that there are people out there who are still making eyewear like jewelry, where it will be, when I had my stores, I looked for that kind of product. I looked for the kind of product that the frame would last a patient, because what I wanted for my patients is I wanted them to build a wardrobe. Yes, this year your insurance will only reimburse you for one pair. That's great. Next year, you'll pay for the lenses to replace if your RX changes, but we'll get you another frame. And we'll build you a wardrobe or you can buy a wardrobe now. That was my second pair sale.
Second pair first.
Yeah, let's get you through a year. Let's get you through to your next insurance. People used to come back earlier, more often than not, because. Right. But I look at a lot of product. And it's almost like the product is now designed to last a year to 2 years, which is the warranty that they give. Okay? Right. Scratch coating lasts for about a year to 2 years. It used to be, let's make the best product we can that's going to fit the best. Here I am. Okay, so my glasses stop right here, right? Longest temples I can find. I have ears in the back of my head. But the issue is, we used to sell frames to fit the patient. So you would get the front, and that would take care of whatever you needed. And then you'd buy a temple, and the temple was whatever length you needed, right? And you'd have 2 or 3 temple lengths.
Yeah, back when it wasn't a surgical 3-hour procedure to pull a temple cover off and put a new one on.
Oh yeah,
it used to be easy.
Well, and it's still not, on some, it's still not hard. You can take it off, you can clip it, you can make it shorter. It's always better to make it a little bit longer. But you know what? That extra couple of ounces of nickel silver, or Monel or whatever, which is what they make costume jewelry out of. Your glasses, by the way, everybody, are made out of costume jewelry parts. Anyway,
that should be a frame line.
What, costume jewelry?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
just melt it all.
Anyway,
show it right in the design.
Yeah, just to have it all molten weird. Anyway, so
semi-molten.
But let's get back to wherever it was we were when I took you off track. I apologize.
Well, you were connecting, the other profession of jewelry deeply into eye care and how you had looked for that. But there's a lot of similarities, and it's very clear where they separate too, historically. It's kind of interesting that this was a thought process that your father and grandfather had to think of whatever market they were going into, or maybe considered it, or maybe looked for it, or.
But we're just as guilty as an industry. My family's just as guilty for making some of this, enhancing the mediocrity of eyewear. And the reason I say that is I was at we were going to open some stores in a region, multiple stores, and we needed a regional manager and we needed managers, and we were going to do interviews and all of that. And we're sitting at a Denny's, and the waitress was just the sweetest, nicest, very attentive, seemed super bright, offered her a job to manage a store. She didn't know anything about optics, but we hired her. And we tried to stay out of states that didn't have that weren't licensed states. So we ended up now that gave me the incentive to put together a whole training program for Royal. So there used to be 3 binders, and you had to go through each binder to get to get promoted. But that's one of the things that we did for mediocrity. We would pull people and train them instead of trying to have people go through the educational process and be an optician.
Well, one of the reoccurring themes, like it or not, that happens in these interviews is that many of us joined eye care, by default. Mm-hmm. Good, bad, or ugly, that was the way that it was or has been. And even like you were talking about somebody who was good with a customer service skill or whatnot, and they were bringing them in.
And Peter, to your point, it is easier to find the right personality to be a good optician than it is to find an optician who has the right personality.
Or even a lab tech.
Well,
it's different too.
Yeah, the thing is that it goes back to the whole Bill Benedict conversation. It's hard to find somebody who pays attention to the details and makes sure that they are repetitively done in a way that gives you the right result. Right. Very recently, I was working for Identity Optical. Okay, they've been recently purchased by Essilor. And Kepler stores are still Kepler stores. They kind of split.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Anyway, one of the things that I found is I've always thought that if you pay people more, you've still got the same people. Okay.
Sure.
At the laboratory level.
Right.
At the retail level, you want to pay people more because the product you're selling is expensive. And if it's more than they can afford, they're going to have a hard time selling it. Okay? Well, I was wrong. I was very wrong. We raised the minimum payment and raised everybody's salary at Identity. And suddenly the people that were there took more of an interest in the quality of their work, the quality of the lab's work. When you ask them to do something, it wasn't immediately, gruffness back. I only make blah, blah, blah. Why do you expect me to do that? It was never that. It was, well, okay, but why are we doing that? And they really started to take an interest in the quality and the throughput. And so as an industry, we tend to underpay. You and I both know that the markups on not couture, okay, couture is like a little more than Keystone, maybe 2-3 times, where when it's the less expensive stuff, it's like 5 times, 6 times. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Mm-hmm. But the thing is we pay people in dollars, not in percentages.
Sure.
So if I'm buying a cheaper product and I mark it up 6 times, I still may only make $40, $50. Well, that person who's sitting there, if I only have 3 people come in and sell, it's $150. If I'm paying $15 an hour and we're open 10 hours, I made nothing. Matter of fact, I lost money because I've got to pay the government's part of their tax. Okay.
Right.
So I'm not trying to be unfair. But what I am saying is that in order to get the quality of product that people believe is there, they have to pay a little more.
Right.
I mean, it's just, or we need to charge more. We need to do better on what we charge.
Well, I don't know it market per market, but I see more interest in opticians opening their own boutiques. And again, I don't know I don't know what's driving the surge of interest, but I'm guessing that it's not without any research. So, opticians
yeah, it is.
having.
Yeah, it is. And the reason I say
that could be true.
And the reason I say it is it's to open an optical shop. If you've got some nice furniture pieces and you go and you spend, you find a place that you can get into for $1,500 a month.
Right.
You're going to make, you can make that and pay your electric bill. And if it's you who's working, I can build my business and I can buy these frames, the lesser expensive frames. It's only a few $1,000, $10,000, $15,000 to fill it up with decent stuff. What else do I need? I don't need a lot to open a store.
You bring a really good point into play. I can think of two functioning, making money opticians that don't even have a website in Philadelphia here. I find that interesting.
You don't need one. My dad taught me the best way to pick a location. Okay? Right. Stand where you want to be. Okay? Put your hand on your wallet. Hold your glasses like this and turn around 180 degrees. And as long as within 2 to 3 miles, that's your customer base.
Right.
That's your location.
That's crazy.
So let's say you turn and all of that is fields and barns and whatever. And you turn over here and, it's starter homes. You're probably not in a great place.
Well, yeah, you got to get out of there.
You got to be
wherever the town is. Is there a lot of traffic on the road? Is it the kind of traffic that you want? Are there people who are walking in the shopping center? What's the draw in the strip center you may be in? What's the other draw that's in there? I mean, we used to love to be next to grocery stores. Okay, we'd find the busiest grocery store we could, and we'd put a store right next door, or at least within walking distance. Always gonna have traffic.
Yeah. Yep. If somebody gets out of the car and walks by. And then the other thing that we did in our couture stores is we actually hired window dressers from ladies' clothing stores to come and dress our windows. So we had moving parts and trains that would go around. People would walk back and forth to see our windows that we would change every 6 to 8 weeks. If you're not creating your own traffic and you're not in a location where there is traffic, you may as well, take that lighter out of your pocket, take the coins out of your, or the cash out of your pocket and just, light it up.
It's the truth. Definitely see it.
I mean, there's a town not too far from here that does concerts in the square and all that kind of stuff. And they've got tons of traffic and great restaurants. And there's a jeweler there that asked me if I would open an optical shop next to him. I'm like, I'm not paying for it. If you want, I'll come office there and I'll sell and dispense for you a couple days a week.
That's just it. It's a lane he's not interested in, but people are still asking him about it, which is just crazy. Well,
it's not even that. It's that it ticks every box. There's always people walking there. There's restaurants that people come from all around to go to. It has a concert on the square. We used to do fundraisers and put tents in the parking lot in front of our store and do fundraisers. So people would be walking around in their nice dresses and jewelry and all of that. And we do a fundraiser in the store. And, 20% of everything sold would go to whatever. And then we also had a silent auction and we did a regular old fundraiser. And so now all of a sudden we've got all the people from the Heart Association or from the cancer group or whatever, they're in my store. Those are the people I want. The people who have cash to burn are who I want in my store. So why would I not do what is important to them?
Well, there was just a discussion on Opticians on Facebook about multi-vendor trunk show. And, I know you're talking a benefit, but in the same vein, it can work quite well. Maybe not for every vendor. Depends on who's there.
To be the most successful at that, and there's guys in Louisiana who do this. Today is your day, Mr. Preck. This is your day. You get Sunday. And I'm going to give this frame company Monday. And I'm going to get this frame company Tuesday. I'm going to give this frame company Wednesday. And you have a trunk show week. And you bring in 6 or 7 of your best vendors. And you market it for the whole week and list who it is. And you know what? Then you know what you're going to carry. Because if I don't get enough of a draw from your frame line on Sunday... Right. Then I might not carry your product because you're not enough of a draw into my store.
It gives you specifically who to email, text, ping.
If you want to do that, I mean you can. You know what in your client base. The other thing is
that frame line, and you're going to be there Tuesday.
How many of us watch television streaming? Everybody these days, right? Pretty much everybody. There are still people who pay their cable bill and like watching commercials. I get that. But on the streaming platforms, there are still ways to advertise, and it's really inexpensive. And you could actually run TV spots on streaming deals in the neighborhoods you want, specific to a neighborhood. And it's amazing. I mean, I'm watching these telephone game companies buying all that up because they're not that expensive.
Right. You
know, people just need to change. And this goes back to our original comment. And maybe this hasn't been recorded. Maybe this was before we were talking. What seems to be the hardest, let me see. Let me rephrase this. What makes people successful in our business is when they are willing to adapt to how the consumer is shopping or looking for eyewear. Nobody has to worry about someone else coming into the market and taking their business. What they need to worry about is not making the change in a timely manner in the way that it needs to be in order to, one, maintain, but not maintain necessarily that customer, but to maintain that volume so that they can grow and build on top of it. I mean, the one thing that I find really hysterical about our business, there is still a huge push for progressives, okay? Progressives are and were designed for my generation, okay? Sure. So baby boomers are coming. It's this huge group of people. Let's focus and market to that group because they're coming. Okay, we're here. We're dying. They're gone. What money and what focus is being put on to the next crowd? The generation alphabet. Okay, generation alphabet soup generation, which is X, Y, Z, Q, P, D, Q, whatever. Right. What are we doing for them? They're mainly still single vision wearers. Right. Are we coming up with technology for the things that they enjoy? Are we spending time and effort and money on night driving glasses or a polarized lens that teach them about polarized lenses? Because we all know once you wear polarized, you're polarized forever, or most people are. But are we coming out with that really great polarized? Are we coming out with mirrors because they love mirrors? Because that's a fashion statement. Are we coming up with an easy way to touch them and reach them and make them that single vision pair of glasses? No. We're still focused on what's the best progressive. How am I going to get an OC height accurately? Well, you're using a 4 millimeter dot from someone who's 5 feet tall and a guy who's 6 feet tall, and you're kind of close-ish. Come on, let's refocus as an industry and give the consumer what they want, and that's not what we're doing. We're not giving. The whole reason Warby Parker and Zenni and all of those became popular was because that alphabet soup generation, that group, they want to be able to buy a pair of glasses to wear with an outfit to go to that concert. Right. and they want to do it for under $100.
And they'll get it
all day long. All day long.
Yep.
That part of our industry isn't growing because it's not a thing. Are there still people out there that we're trying to hang on to that will buy the traditional way? Yeah, they're my age, and we're dying. So we can either take our industry and push it towards that, or we can leapfrog over where they are now. Okay, which is I want to be able to get something cool that I can wear that's going to last me a few years. Right. We can leapfrog that, and we can start worrying about meta. Meta's great. Technology's fun. All that's fantastic. It's going to get a whole lot better. I mean, I'm real deep into developing a new product that's going to be super cool. But the product doesn't matter as much as the technology that's behind it. And the problem is we're listening to the technology companies, and we're not setting up the dynamic for the wearables to where the optician can make a living. They're selling it. They're selling it like it's we're selling it like it is going into a Best Buy. Best Buy buys something, they keystone it. You know, they've got their whole, we take a hit, blah, blah, blah. You can't do that in an optical shop. I may get 3 people one day. I may get 7 people another day. I may get 2 people one day. I may get 10 people another day.
Right.
It's not consistent. You need that extra margin in order to be able to keep your door open. They're taking that margin away from the optician. And they keep saying, well, y'all can make it on your lenses. That's not how we do business. If I've got to touch it, unless you're going to give me a warranty that says anything that goes wrong with it, you're going to pay for and give me another frame, which they're not. They're saying it's your problem. If you break it, it's your problem.
It's giving the independent optician working for a doc or themselves, it gives them the opportunity to stand on a set of ethics about controlled data, a lot of other issues too.
Right, which
can become part of the equation when prescription glasses are going into any Meta eyewear.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things we're working on. When you look at Meta and you look at some of the other guys that are out there, they presently are using the large language models that are out there that take whatever data you give and take. They're taking that to train the large language model.
Okay.
One of the things that we're working on in the product we will be coming out with is siloing that data, that conversation to the user, just to the user. Now, they'll have to pay for that privacy.
Right.
If they want to use the large language model version that everybody else is using, great. You'll have that and it'll be much less expensive. But if you want to have your own, it's going to cost a little more. But
sure.
One thing I've learned from my parents, my grandfather and my father, I should say, is that I'm not going to come out with a product until the product has the ability to give people a quality version of what's out there. And right now, everything is a little big, it's a little bulky, it's a little heavy, it doesn't last very long. The heads-up display.
Can't get it wet.
The heads-up display is the one. There are a few that are going to be coming out that are full color, but right now there's like a green screen, which to me reminds me of the '80s. You know, the monitors that were green. And you
I remember that.
Video games were where you read, I walked forward 3 steps and banged in my face into a wall. Oh, there's a door to my right. Take 1 step to the right. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
You sound like a bad DM. Figure out what DM is, people.
Dungeon Master, by the way. Anybody?
There we go. No, you gave it away. We're talking about tech that we like, and didn't like, and how you take a cool name where you find silver linings. It's going to work, you know.
Matches the beard.
Well, you get a lot of those right there, because even in the things that are off base, there's opportunity to connect in other ways and keep the sanctity of the information in the right places. I want to hit, because we'll forget this completely. When I asked about tech that you like, you mentioned a two-headed Coburn generator.
Yeah.
I only work with a 113 with coolant, not oil. But talk about that. I had heard about it. I never used it. It's supposed to be spectacular.
It was great, and it sped things up, but it, just like everything else in new technology, it always needed a little bit of work. You talked about oil and coolant, so I have to tell you this story. When you get to a certain age, your life is about telling stories. So I apologize to anybody who's listening.
No, these are good.
But I'm sitting across. So the guy who ran the lens department for us, his son and I were about the same age, and they put us both on the generators facing each other. And we had generator oil in the middle, the little bath of oil. And we were going to do a race to see who could surface the most lenses. And I'm just cooking, and he's cooking, and I'm a little bit ahead, and he's going to get ahead. He's going to get ahead of me, and he doesn't realize that he put in a photochromic lens, and he takes off a little bit too much. That oil does catch fire. Boom.
Sparks.
He had a beard. I did not. From here to here, no hair, all gone, and flash blind, and they had to race him off to, race him off to the hospital. He was fine. His hair grew back. But yeah, there were some fun things that happened in the lab. I mean, one summer now, one of the things that I did like about working in a lab every summer and every vacation was one summer I would take 2 cylinder machines off the line, and we would break them down, change out all the parts that needed to be changed out that weren't almost new. We repainted the case, sandblasted and repainted the cases, and we put them back in line, make sure that they were, calibrated. There was enough throw and all this stuff. And then we grabbed 2 more and do that. So I got to spend a whole summer tearing down and rebuilding cylinder machines. I mean, I think we had like 18 of them. I mean, it was a lot of them. But my point is that I got a chance to do everything in a lab. I tore down edgers. I tore down generators and rebuilt them. We used to have to, when it was all glass, we would chemically treat the glass. Of course, everybody thought it'd be really funny because I used to get there at 5 to empty it and reload it. And then at night before I'd leave, I'd load it. Well, they thought they'd be really funny and load the baskets and put a plastic lens in there. Well, plastic will catch fire. So I'm sitting here with these long, asbestos gloves, putting it in, lowering it down and closing the thing. And boom. They loved to jack around with the owner's kid. They had a blast.
I worked for a window of time in the late 90s. I ran the lab at Clark Athler Lober, which was a 5-location, at that time, old school opticians, Baltimore area. And Tom Appler told me a story. Yeah, they were the shenanigans that you're talking about. And the guy smoked a cigar after lunch, and he's generating, and he puts a load in there, and he's talking to someone else, and the guy goes, "You put one in there?" "I did too." And they turn, boom, and this whole cigar just blows right out of the guy's mouth. It's like, oh my God. So much for safety. Huh?
I was going to say, we had fun. We did have fun. So back in the old days, they used to make, frames weren't made out of cellulose acetate, which is a plant-based plastic. It was made out of a different type of acetate that was flammable. And so my grandfather and his partner, Julie, Guy, are sitting there chatting, And everybody smoked in the lab back then, right? You had an ashtray next to you, everybody smoked. Anyway, somebody flicked it over into the pile of shavings, and they almost burnt down the whole frame factory. So yeah, I mean, there's always some story that's out there that's fun. But I do remember also when standards began. Okay, the Optical Manufacturers Association was working on ANSI standards. Okay, we are a mostly self-regulated, except in safety, industry.
Right.
So we were coming up with the OSHA standards, and one of our competitors stands up and goes, "Why do we need all of this? Everything that comes out of my factory is perfect. Out of my laboratory is perfect." And I remember I was 12. I remember looking up at my dad and I go, "Dad, is he fucking stupid?" Pardon me, by the way. I don't know if you have to bleep this stuff or not, but it's like
see what YouTube says.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like, you got to be kidding me. There's no way.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the ego. Jeez.
I hope you're right, but what I see more prevalent is, instead of us as an industry trying to educate the consumer, we do our best to keep the consumer in the dark so that they have to take what we're giving them. One of the things you and I have talked about multiple times over the last few years is we would love to be able to afford, number one, because we do have to get paid in order to live, but be able to afford to create consumer education when it comes to eyewear. And we talked about building an AI to do it, and we've talked about other stuff as well. But I think our industry is afraid to teach the consumer. When they were instead of talking about the advantages, of anti-reflective coating, it was about Crizal. It was just branding. So we have no problem branding. We have no problem naming something, Verilux. We have no problem saying that, Verilux is the same thing as Kleenex. It's just a brand name. Right. There's equally as good a product out there, if some even better. But my point is that, or the sad point is, I really think that people would find what we do fascinating. I've never done a lab tour or a factory tour when I was making frames, because I ran a frame factory for 5 years. I've never taken anyone on a tour where they weren't stunned at what goes into making a pair of glasses.
Well, we're not going to go deep down in this conversation, in this podcast, but you and I have that unique opportunity to plug all those things in Philadelphia, and that's going to be an exciting project. The problem is it's just 27. It's not going to be in 26 in all likelihood.
Well, and I'm still looking forward to being able to do it, but it's again, we've got to be able to afford to do it, because I'm finished doing things for free.
Yeah.
So, well, not that you're paying me for this, because you're not. But that's fine.
Well, what I want to end on is a product that I've seen and I'm eager to get my hands on. But talk about what Eagle Eyes is bringing to the mix right now.
Well, Eagle Eyes has been a sunglass company for decades, and they have had unique products that have superior technology over almost anything. And as a matter of fact, back in the Royal days, we had a similar product that we sold a ton of when it comes to the blue blocking lens. Not a blue filtering lens, which is what everybody else is selling, but a blue blocking lens, one that takes almost the entire spectrum of blue and filters it out, okay? Instead of trying to tweak which one it needs to be, which they also have, by the way.
Right.
But they also found the chemistry of the eye of an eagle and what increases the acuity and ability for an eagle to see like it does. Okay, they don't. Yeah, and they've put that into a lens. They have created a UV filtering lens that NASA used, and it's the only NASA certified lens product that's out there. And all of that has been sold as Plano product. And they now are going to start launching to the world the ability to make this into prescription eyewear. They still have their great collection of sunglasses, and you know, we've all seen the glasses that elder folks put over their glasses to have as sunglasses.
Mm-hmm.
Problem is that the temple is blocked. On these, they actually have a lens there that you can have peripheral vision. They have clip-ons where you can have night vision clip-on. You can have your computer vision clip-on, and you can have your high-end polarized product clip-on. So now you buy one pair of glasses, put your script in it, and you have clips that give you all the filtration their selection, and they've got the regular fun stuff, the pilots and the aviators and the wraps and all that kind of stuff. They have all of that as well. So
yeah, the interchangeable clip, and I immediately think of a driving lens, and then the sun lens, and then the blue light protection people asking about. That's fascinating to me. Especially it's all right there, prescription behind it. It brings all the needs into a single place.
So I invented a custom clip-on. Got a patent, all that other stuff, went out and sold it in the world. One of the things that was really critical that I want to bring up now, just because I think it's important for people to know, backside AR on a clip, AR coating on your lens. And the reason is in between, you don't want the light bouncing back and forth and creating additional reflections. So if you buy these and you put your prescription in the frame, make sure that it has AR coating, because the lenses in the clips do.
Right. Which is huge.
Yeah, it's just a really cool thing, and I'm as you know, I'm starting to work with them, so and I'm just loving, the tech. It's not all brand new tech, but it is tech that is still superior to the new stuff that's coming out. So that's important. It doesn't have to be new to be best.
Well, it's got improved options.
Yeah.
You talked about the side on the fit overs, all those options, on front, on front of the frame. That I won't even try to get into explaining it. But the links will definitely be in the show notes.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any piece of wisdom you'd like to leave to us as we approach an hour here?
I do want to say that we're all entitled to our opinions as to what's going on. I have been doing this for a little while, so I have mine have grown from my personal experience, but that the one thing that I think our industry needs more than anything is that camaraderie and the ability for us to reach out to each other and work with each other, and kind of get back to that. Because to compete for the well-being of others just doesn't sound right, does it? And if we are working together in unison for the well-being of others, that kind of makes more sense. So I would like to invite really our entire industry to start working together to improve the experience and the well-being of our patients.
And take that message to the masses. You talked about this on this podcast, your father translating that directly with a colleague who had a flyer. Those are proud moments to talk about in our history, in our lineage. It doesn't mean that we need to ignore or reinvent the wheel, but be there for one another and start coming together. All the 3 O's. But it's got to start with opticianry, and then they're going to bring everything else around that. And it's happening now.
But I think the responsibility for delivery of eyewear needs to stay with the optician. Right. I think that when you start to reach over into other people's part of the profession, your motivations are different. My motivation as an optician is, doctor, you need to see more people so I can sell more glasses. No. Right. Truth of the matter is, doctor, you need to give your patient the best service and quality and health care that you can. That's your job. You make your decision on who you want to be. But when it comes to glasses, let me make sure that I have the best quality frames, the best quality lenses, the best service. And I'll make sure that you, because this is your building and you're taking the risks, I'll make sure that you make a living. And that most of the people, most of the doctors that I have consulted for,
right?
Most of them that I have consulted for, almost 50% of their revenue comes out of the dispensary.
Yep.
But the optician doesn't get that respect. So it needs to be a back and forth. It needs to be a partnership.
Completely. But I've been asked, optometry profits revealed, Peter. You all talk about opticians. You talk to opticians. What's the deal? Look.
But we are opticians. We are opticians. Yeah, we are opticians. You know what? It's like it's kind of like going to another country and saying to somebody, by the way, you need to carry an American flag. No, you don't. You do whatever you want.
No,
you do you, and I'll do me.
Right.
But if I can benefit you, and this goes back to the original comment I made, if I can benefit you and I can work with you and I can help you, right, then that's what we all need to do. We all need to figure out a way where we can help each other, but not take that ability away from someone else.
There you
go. To help me, or vice versa, me help them.
Yep. Pay it forward.
Pay it sideways.
Yep.
Shake hands. Be friends.
It's there, and
it just needs to be more. Just needs to be more prevalent. It needs to really be more of a way of living, not. Well, yeah.
The coming together is happening, and I think to a degree, the more presence we have, the more presence of all good and bad and ugly we'll have. But we'll focus on the good. And it's gonna work out well.
I will tell you, one of two things is going to happen. It is either going to happen with us participating,
right,
or it's going to happen on its own because the consumer will go where it is the most comfortable for them to
learn.
But not just learn, to get what they're looking for. The one thing that our industry forgets, because we're so tight into it, the one thing we forget is that all we really are to a patient is, I can't see really well, I need to go to the eye doctor. And imagine a to-do list. We're one line on a to-do list. Go to the eye doctor, because they want to see better.
Right.
We've got all this other stuff that we put around. Just let me see. Get me some glasses that look good on me, and let me see.
It's the truth.
And
to be there.
Self-importance
is huge.
Self-importance gets in our way occasionally.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's always an agenda. We're in